are live. Welcome, Miss Emily. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How about you, Miss Megan?
I am good. How are you?
How's Mr. Benji behind the camera?
Doing all right.
He says he's doing all right. So this is our Q&A, and I know by experience, because we've done maybe 5 of these or so, 6, that the questions get rolling a little bit later. So if you have any questions, please type them in. We can see them here. If we miss something, Mr. Ben will rattle them off, and I will try to repeat them out loud, which I missed a couple of videos ago. I screwed up a couple. So State of the Union, what's going on here for us?
Lots of videos.
Lots of videos. Lots of videos. We did about 25, 30 new videos for the site today. A lot of cha-cha, some East Coast swing. So we got some cool stuff coming there. What else? That's it.
Lots of videos. Tons and tons of videos.
And we're not done.
We're not done.
Not done.
Yeah, so we are, as you guys know, we're building out, in essence, West Coast Swing Online. So those guys who are members, it's great for you if you're a member because you're getting more value. So we had about 500 West Coast Swing videos, close to 500, and we are now adding two-step and nightclub and East Coast and cha-cha and eventually waltz. Can you pull that light a little bit towards us so we can look pretty? Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, so
You look pretty.
you look fantastic. The better light is on this side. The better light's on this side. So our first question from Ms. Kate on Facebook. For the ladies, is there anything to help me practice my following connection skills alone, stuck by myself? The handsome is stuck elsewhere. And the funny thing is Ben is giving himself thumbs.
No, I was doing all by myself.
Oh, he was doing all by himself. I thought he was saying he was Mr. Handsome.
That would have been funny.
So I'm going to let the ladies answer that question, but we're planning out the next month of live videos, and one of the videos specifically, I don't know if it'll land next week, the week after, but somewhere in the next couple of weeks, we will do a video specifically about those topics, how to practice alone. But what can the followers do to practice on their own? You can hold that.
Cool. Some of the things that you can practice are your basic footwork patterns. So knowing your patterns backwards and forwards is a good tool to have in your tool belt. As far as connection goes, I think Megan has a good drill with using a doorknob with a, what do you call it? A Dynaband or a TheraBand, is what I call. So
Brian's gonna go get it.
that is something that you can do by yourself as well, and that's probably something that they will talk about in the how to practice alone. So, Megan?
Yes, so for sure practicing your footwork, knowing your patterns, your basic patterns is really good because most things are done off of your basic patterns. Your sugar pushes, your sugar tucks, your whips, inside turn, right side pass, left side pass. Can't believe I forgot those first. But anyway, most variations, reverse whips, most variations come off of those base patterns. So if you know your footwork really well for that, most things are going to be a lot easier. Oh, Lord.
We just now saw me coming into the camera.
And then this is the TheraBand.
This is the Who wants to demonstrate? Here you go.
How
You
about-
can narrate.
Oh,
You can narrate. Do you want to narrate?
no.
Emily will narrate.
Megan will do,
So you
apparently.
get one of these TheraBands. These things are super cheap. They're in the fitness department. Oh, sorry. They're super cheap. They're
They can
in the
hear
fitness
you.
department. So these are great. You tie these. I actually have these in my bedroom tied to a door.
But yes.
Close enough. I'm a door.
He's a door. Okay, so you would,
They can hear you. It's okay.
I'll just shout. Okay, so you would maybe not start already away with your connection, maybe start a little bit less away, and then as you're doing your pattern, maybe a little bit further away, as you're doing your pattern, just do like a sugar push, okay? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. You want just a tiny bit of connection away, and then as you anchor, you're gonna make that go a little bit further. Do you have anything to add?
If you don't have a TheraBand and you have a bungee cord with 2 hooks on the side, that is also something that you can use for this, because not everyone has a TheraBand.
I have no head.
Or you could just use a stretchy shirt that has.
Or
then you would
could
use-
just
I'm
use a
joking.
doorknob.
I'm joking. Or a doorknob. Yeah, but I love this TheraBand. Actually, years ago, I saw one of these. I've never seen it since. It was probably like 12 or 14 years ago. There was an interesting thing that someone had. It had an elastic. Imagine a little. Can you hold this for me?
Yes.
It had like a little pillow, right, against the leader's hand, and it had an elastic band. And so what would happen is the follower would stretch away with the elastic band in a sugar push, and then in the forward part of the sugar push, she would run into the little pad and then back to the away connection with the rubber band. And I saw one of those once. I don't know if someone made it, but
We should make them and put
we
them on
should
Shark
make
Tank.
those. Well, I don't know if it's going to be.
It's our
big
niche
enough
market.
Yeah. Hello, Bob and Donna from North Charleston. Welcome on YouTube. And who's hanging out with us on Facebook? Lots of people. Brian Picard says, tie a string around the fridge handle. If you anchor too hard, you open the fridge. I forgot that one, Brian. That's a great one.
No, some of those fridges open pretty easily.
That's a good one.
That's what I was like, even if there's a little tug, it opens. So.
Christine Wetzel, welcome to the group.
What's up, Christine?
How are you? What's going on?
Your front porch is amazing.
We saw your two-step challenge. So for those of you guys who don't know,
Awesome.
there's been a pro two-step challenge
Yes.
where a bunch of pro country dancers each took a portion or a phrase of a song,
Yes.
and they did a chunk of that phrase, and then they stitched it all together into one full video.
Yes, I think Mark has gotten very bored because Mark Davidson has now put several of the montages together to where each phrase picks up. And it's pretty cool to watch. Ben and I were lucky enough to be a part of it, so it was super cool.
It was super cool. I liked it. I liked your
And
piece
it
of choreography.
continues.
And they did it in front of, man, it was so tricky because
So
you
many
guys,
places.
they did it a couple different places around town, and one was down by the waterfront, one was like a memorial,
Peace Memorial.
Peace Memorial, one was by Churchill Downs, and then another was from this really cool mural that's down by Churchill Downs. It's a Welcome to Louisville mural, and it's really stunning in the background. So it was a debate whether they would do it in front of the mural.
It
The-
was a little sketch doing it because it's in the middle of. We had to set the iPad and Ben's phone up in the middle of a gas station. So we were just praying that nobody would drive through that area that we were using, and luckily,
As soon as we finished, 4 cars both flew.
yeah. And no one. I left my sunglasses on the ground, and no one ran over them. So I had to go get those before we left too.
William says, I see lots of snapped people in the future. And then he quotes,
Right.
I lived through the coronavirus, but a bungee cord took me out. That's awesome.
Nope.
Ben, can you, okay, Sandy, Ben is going to drop a link of this montage. I think it's floating around Facebook.
It is. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I think they should be able to share it, yes.
The link.
Hello, Deborah. Good to see you on Facebook. Brian Picard says he's old school with his refrigerator. I know, Brian, because I'm a little old school because not only did I know that, but I forgot it. I forgot it.
What's up, Kayla Kring?
Kayla from Louisville. We have friends from Louisville hanging out with us virtually. So Sandy, Ben is dropping that montage link here soon. So I am excited about the planning out the next month worth of videos, of classes, because we've learned a lot in terms of what people wanted and what's interesting. And so we've got some really, really cool topics and some really fun videos, some fun topics that kind of start to answer questions a little bit more so than pure patterns, because it's kind of fun, but I like the discussions about how do you do this, why do you do this. Those are probably the things that are a little bit more interesting to consume while we're sitting there as entertainment. Does that make sense? So we got, actually, do you want to talk for a little bit? I'm going to look those patterns up. Megan, can you find that for me?
Yeah. Which patterns are we talking about?
We're going to look up some of the class titles that we have coming, because I'm super excited about that. We brainstormed a big list. Including, if you guys haven't heard us talk about it before, we're going to try to do one video a week that answers all the questions that come in, because we get a ton of questions via email, Facebook, the comments in our current videos. For the people who don't see it live, they'll come in and type in questions, And so we've been keeping track of your questions, and I've been starting to tell people that I can't promise that we're going to get to your video, but then I thought, or your question, but then I thought if we create a video of just the questions answered, if you have a question this week, you can look at the end of the week, find the video, and will be answered. So, upcoming videos in no particular order.
You haven't okayed this.
We haven't, yeah, we haven't officially, but we'll have
Those are the ones.
East Coast Swing basics and nightclub basics and waltz basics, intermediate cha-cha, two-steps basics. So we're going to do those things for people who want to learn the basic patterns and get acquainted. Then applying body isolations to West Coast Swing patterns. So very specifically, when the girls did their styling course, people said, well, how do I actually apply it? And they did their videos in like 2 sections, right? One was doing it.
Yes. Well, Megan and I did the anchor variations. Ben and I did the body isolations class. So the next part to that, Megan and I first did just the anchor variations. Then we, in the next class, applied them to patterns. The same thing is going to be with the body isolations. We did the body isolations class, and now we will actually apply them to different patterns for West Coast. So you can see the application of it all.
So other, I'm just going to highlight what I think are the cool ones.
Go back up to yours.
Spins and turns, 3 things you need to master. Timing and musicality, how to stay on time with dancing difficult patterns. We addressed that a little bit in the last little workshop we did, that 2-beat increments. So really going through, I am going to go back up to my list. Where people get stuck with musicality solved. So we just launched Musicality, the Ultimate Guide to Musicality version 2.0, so our upgraded musicality course, which is on sale this week, just saying. And so some of the people who took the class, or the course this week, they came back and they had some other questions, and so what we're gonna do is try to answer the places that we see people getting stuck the most in one particular video. Now that class won't cover everything because we don't have time, but we will try to answer the questions.
Hour-long classes.
Yeah. Spins and turns, 3 things you need to master to turn better. There are basically 3: pivot turns, chaîné turns, and some balance issues. What the heck to do with my arms? We get that a lot, and I have no idea because I'm a boy. So the girls are going to cover what to, maybe Emily.
Emily will cover.
But we'll cover what to do with your arms in West Coast Swing, both from a styling perspective and a functional perspective.
Oh, I can do function.
Yeah, function and styling. How to find your own style in West Coast Swing. We've gotten this question a lot over the years, like how to, without just learning piece by piece, do this, do this, do this, like how to find your own style, how to, Megan actually alluded to this when you talked about, well, actually you guys both did, when you talked about how do I practice on my own, right? A way to look at your patterns, figure out some techniques, and then practice the pushes, passes, and whips, and apply different styling techniques. I feel like a commercial because that is exactly what we do in our course, step by step by step. So we're going to talk about how to find your own style in West Coast Swing, and then I don't like the title of this, but
There is also West Coast Swing versus East Coast Swing.
oh, West Coast Swing versus East Coast Swing. We're going to talk about the difference for those of you guys who don't just dance West Coast Swing. So if you have any friends that are dancers, maybe not just West Coast Swing dancers, please send them our way because we are not just West Coast Swing dancers. Even though we do West Coast Swing online,
Do it all.
we do it all, right?
Except for a couple dances.
Except for a couple dances. So we all have a varied dance background. I mean, just a little backstory since we have some time. What's your quick backstory? What's your dance history pre-partner dancing?
I started when I was 3, and I did it all, and then I went to partner dancing.
But did it all? Like what's all?
all?
I don't know all.
Ballet, contemporary, hip hop, jazz, a little bit of tap, and musical theater.
Boom. I went to a bar at 21 and started line dancing, and then thought I would learn two-step and West Coast in one workshop, and I'm still trying to learn two-step and West Coast. And Miss Megan has a fun, you can talk a little bit about the skating too.
So like Emily, I started when I was 3. My mom was a ballet dancer, so I didn't really have a choice. Unlike Emily, ballet was not my thing. So in 8th grade, we found a ballroom dance studio. In the meantime, or in the time before ballroom started, I was a figure skater for 15 years.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay. I was a figure skater for 15 years, and that taught me a lot of stuff about spins. Love to spin. So I've got a pretty wide background, not just all dance. I'm done.
Yeah. Yes. And so unlike these two, Benji and I are in the same boat, right? So those of you guys who are like, well, I don't have this long story dance history and background, and neither did I. Like, I was an athlete growing up, but I don't think that afforded me any particular skills. I just became passionate about dancing, and I had to figure it out as I went.
I was a gymnast too.
Oh, you were a gymnast? Did I not know that?
I think you knew that.
I didn't, how do I not know something about you? It's crazy. Steve says he's here from South Australia. That's awesome. I'm tall and my regular partner is much shorter, and I'm learning to bend my knees to make it work. Any tips to make it stylish? This is something we should cover in our weekly video to answer your questions, because although Emily's tall, Ben is her partner, and Ben is 6'4". So maybe Ben is super tall compared to everybody. So yeah, any tips to make it stylish? What do you do, Ben, to make it stylish when you're tall and your partner's shorter?
I think it's a common misconception to try and match their level. It's actually better not to compromise your own frame.
I'm going to repeat this. Yeah, so Ben says it's a little bit of a misconception to try to make yourself shorter for your partner. So basically, you have to learn the same stuff that the shorter people have to learn, right, being taller. And to still master everything the same way in an upright, and that it's a little bit of a misconception. You need to adjust. I think from my experience and even coaching Ben, like there are some things where as the leader, if you're going under an arm, you need to either be really darn good and really technical at whatever move you're going underneath an arm, your own arm or your partner's arm, or you're gonna need to bend your knees to get underneath. So there are some technical things that you'll need to do as you get through patterns, but I think largely the functions are the same, right? We talk about like a basic closed hold. It's going to be at the eye height of the follower. It doesn't matter if I'm a skyscraper. It's still the same eye height level for her, right? My connection that we're sharing between us is still going to be the same height. So all that stuff is the same, and you are inherently adjusting to your partner. But kind of if you're talking about styling stuff, any type of tips to make it stylish is what Steve said.
It also emphasizes having to dance from your core more, because if you're a lot taller than them and you're dancing with your upper body, you're just falling off.
Yeah, Ben says it also emphasizes dancing with your core more and your center of balance, because when you're taller and you do things incorrectly, it's much higher, right? If you're trying to make adjustments from the top, but lowering, we talk about everything in all dances. I think the lower that we move, the better. For sure, dances like waltz move very low, and I think as you lower your connection, if you think about beginners, right? Who's ever been in this beginner West Coast class, and people start doing sugar pushes and the hands of everyone do this, right? And T-Rex. And so we're always constantly, all of us in this room are constantly thinking about lowering that connection. So I think that applies for all of us, and because you're a little bit taller, you might have to think about it a little bit more and resist the urge to do something differently, but kind of follow the same rules. So thank you for the question from South Australia. My friend Kelly from Seven Arrow Media says, I get to do this all over again on Monday. I'm going to be a guest on his, is it a podcast, Kelly? Yes. It's a podcast. So he's jumping a podcast. He's got some cool guests, and then he's letting me go too. Steve says he falls into the trap of stooping as well, right? So, oh, that's the same Steve. Sorry, Steve. Yeah, you want to try not to. I've always been taught as the leader that I have to, because typically guys are taller than girls in general, right? And that I have to feel like, especially in Latin dancing, I have to feel like I'm dancing over top of the follower. Because if I'm taller, and even like Emily's just a little bit shorter than me, so it's not as much, but even just that slight adjustment down, I actually have to think about dancing above. That's a good thought process.
Lose your height.
Never want to lose your, do you have any thoughts? Because you dance with a really tall guy.
I do.
You look so disappointed.
No, I was looking at Kelly's thing. Anyway, yeah, Steve, you never want to, as a leader, no matter what the height of your follower is, you never want to kind of hunch over. That doesn't give you a good look. So the more you can stand up and actually roll your shoulders back and look like you're presenting your chest, as weird as that is height-wise, it actually is better for the lead in general. What Ben was talking about, leading from the core, you're actually closer to the core, so that makes it better. But we actually, at Derby City Swing, we had a guy who was like 7 feet tall.
He's like
6'9", almost 7 feet tall, and you would have thought that he was dancing, like he could dance with anyone. He was doing Jack and Jills, he looked great, but one of the things that he kind of, we were talking about building on your skill set, so one of the things that he kind of built upon was doing things by his waist and doing things that didn't go up and over his head, and finding things that he still looked cool, it was very comfortable, but nothing that there was no stress about going or ducking under himself or doing anything like that. So I think probably finding those patterns that are beneficial to make you look good too, like that's gonna make things easier to look stylish and not have to stoop and not have to come down to whatever height your follower is, if it is in fact much shorter than you. And you might not be able to go to closed position, apparently. So, that's all I have to say about that.
Boom, Sue jumped in and said, things for a follower or a leader to do on occasion with their footwork when given the invite. That's a good question. And she said, she followed up and said, this was meant as a suggestion for a future class. Think about your earlier comments. Yes, so I didn't finish reading, so 2 things, Sue. I threw in a link to a page where I think you have to enter an email on that page because I have the video, but it'll be delivered via email. So if you click on that link, you'll get 5 ways to style your anchor steps. So that's an easy one. But yes, I'm with you. Different styling options for leaders and followers will be something we will cover. Hello, Jen Cameron from Florida.
We kind of covered that last night with sugar pushes.
Yeah, we kind of covered that a little bit with sugar pushes. So other cool video ideas that we have coming up, and this might generate questions that we can talk about now. 7 basic patterns I bet you didn't know. There's some really cool basic patterns that are useful. Like the tuck whip. How to lead a follower in ducks. We had a request from one of our students talking about moves that you can do in any dance, if you will. So like, for instance, a bow tie. That you can do an East Coast swing, West Coast swing in 2 steps. So we could talk about that from not only just I can do this move in different dance styles, but why I can do them and what I would think about as the leader and what I need to think about as the follower. Could be a very interesting discussion. 7 sugar push variations you need to know. By technical definition, we kind of did that last night.
We didn't do 7.
I mean, we didn't do 7.
We didn't do 7, but if you guys...
General concepts.
If you guys missed that, I thought it was one of my favorite classes.
It was something.
I thought it was great. So if you guys missed that, you can go to westcoastswingonline.com/live and look up yesterday's sugar push styling class. And it was pretty cool because we did, Megan and I tend to dance very fundamentally, yes? And you take a few more chances?
Yes, I don't dance like you.
Yes. So, we kind of split the class. I was the leader for both ladies.
Entertaining, for sure.
I thought it was fantastic because we did some fundamental stuff, some easy stuff you could do, Megan and I did. And then Emily jumped in and she just jumped with her styling options. And then we discussed them and they actually triggered the thought about creating angles.
I love angles.
Ben is over there doing
all the angles, tap, tap.
Yeah. So it was really, really cool. So check that out. I love that class because you got to me the best of both of the followers. Yeah, I thought it was good.
You should watch it. It's pretty entertaining if you want to laugh.
I mean, maybe not as entertaining as tonight.
And a tutorial.
It was good. Let me make sure we don't miss any questions. Say during a side pass. So Sue gave an option for things to do during a side pass. Ooh, good question. Yes.
Raise, lower, syncopate, remember.
Yeah. So
And then after that, it says say during a side pass.
There was an
Yeah, so that is definitely something we can cover at some point. We'll throw that idea.
All
Can you
the
type in
styling.
styling options?
I can write it down.
Yeah, there you go. Megan will write it down. And not to be salesy, but sometimes we have the answer to all of the questions. Yeah, over the years, we've created a couple of different courses based upon these suggestions, right? So one of the ones we did is the ultimate guide to ladies or followers styling, right? And so what we did was in that course is we went, to your point, Sue, we went, okay, what are my footwork options as a follower? And we did a course for leaders too, right? What are my footwork options? What are my body isolation options? What are my rotational options, right? What are my styling options? And then how do I apply them very specifically to pushes, passes, and whips, right? So we walk through footwork drills and then apply them to sugar pushes, passes, and whips. Then we walk through rotational options and how do we deal with that in pushes, passes, and whips. And we were very fundamental. And then we threw in some extra patterns and some arm styling and stuff like that. So that is a good option.
What's up, Gordon?
What's up, Gordon? You want to read Gordon's question? Because I'm going to type something in for Sue.
Hi, Gordon. How can a lead plan a great, smooth move for those that have height differences in the followers?
Boom.
I think that would be an amazing idea for a video.
A follower that's taller or shorter, because that makes a difference.
It does.
Because if they're shorter, you could do ducks. If they're shorter, ducks are easy.
For the follower.
For the follower, yes. So was there a specific height you were looking for, Gordon?
Gotta go through the delay.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You can also do a lot of like waist.
Yeah, so what we were talking about earlier with the 7-foot tall guy, he did a lot of stuff that trailed the waist, that went around the waist, that didn't go up and over his head. Yes, that's still in the works. Do you have anything for Gordon?
Shorter.
Shorter. Yes, you can do ducks, you can do dips, you can do drops, you can do,
Are we talking about the partner shorter?
if the partner is shorter, and spins.
Yeah, so I think that when you have, I call it an appropriately heighted partner or shorter, spin things are easier, right? Because they're happening kind of underneath you. So I always think that Ben being tall has an advantage because he's over top of everything, and it's easier to do ducks and spins because functionally speaking, he's in the advantageous position for that, right? Whereas for me, if followers get any taller than Emily, I'm dancing up to the follower, and it's a little bit harder to do ducks. It's totally doable, but your margin of error is shorter. So if your partner's taller, going under the arm and options like that become easy. Tandem pieces where you're moving at the same time as your partner become easy because the heights are the same. But there are advantages and disadvantages being taller and shorter. If your follower is shorter, I think spinning options are easier, ducking options are easier, and then even from that aspect, I say this to Ben all the time, like he's just bigger than me. He's taller, he's bigger and naturally stronger. So even dipping options are easier because you're just bigger than your follower. I'm 5'8" with a bad back, so at this stage, any dipping type stuff is challenging for me. I used to be really strong.
But also, like,
5'9", I'm 5'9".
if he wants to do turns and stuff like that, he can also do them by making the follower trail the waist or anything like that. So you can still add turning style for yourself. I mean, it's not undoable.
Yeah.
Avoid going under your own arm.
Just, Ben says avoid going under.
There's tons of options for you.
You forbid me from going under my own arm.
Yeah, I forbid Ben from going under his own arm. And I said, look, as a competitive dancer, like you have to look good, right? The idea is they have to put their best foot forward and do the best stuff that looks the best. And although you can do it, it's just the margin of error is so slim, you have to be perfect at it to get it to look good. But to the point of like what works for a particular partnership, and this works social dancing or competitively, like if you're taller, like your lines, Ben and Emily's lines are going to just naturally be longer than Megan and mine. We're shorter of stature, we don't have as long of limbs, so those choices will be easier for them, harder for us. Yeah, so there you go. There was a comment in here I want to jump into. Oh, George said, the lady said that after their class on body isolations, they'd be having another class using them. Is that still in the works?
Yes, Ben's a lady now. Yes, it is in the works. I believe it's scheduled for next Saturday, actually.
Next Saturday, George, they will be applying their body isolations to patterns and videos.
Maybe it'll be all
Or
of us.
patterns.
Should be.
What are the questions we have? I'll start talking about the philosophy of dance and why we do this.
Sandy loved last night's class as well.
Thank you, Sandy. Sandy said she loves our class last night. I really enjoyed that one. For me, it was great because it had the same general structure that I think a lot of our stuff has, but then I thought that everyone got the best of both worlds from the two followers and their approaches. And we've said this a lot over the years. There are a lot of approaches to dance. Those of you guys who have different teachers, you might take private lessons from different teachers, and you'll find them saying different things. And I stress this all the time. It's confusing as heck to newer dancers, and it's confusing as heck to competitors because they think that one of the teachers has the magic pill and the other one, there must be a right and a wrong. And in a lot of cases, that's not the case. So Joe says, was Emily in the Navy, or is that the shirt she was wearing when teaching how to anchor?
Navy.
No, she was not in the
No,
Navy.
this is my anchor shirt
That's Emily's anchor shirt. Do we have those?
that I wear for West Coast Swing, and yes, we have them. We have black anchors, we have white anchors, and we have pink anchors. My dad bought an anchor shirt because he's
Tell
awesome.
them about the anchor shirts. I'm going to drop the link.
Okay. So also, there's a 10% off sale for all of the West Coast Swing merchandise. There's also stuff that's just generic dance. There's also a two-step shirt as well, and I'm working on more stuff. But yes, I like the anchor shirt, and if we're talking about West Coast Swing, I feel like it's fitting. I was not in the Navy, although a few of my uncles were, so
cool.
represent. Yeah, and so you can buy your own anchor shirt and have it. We have men's shirts, we have tanks, we have women's shirts. There are tons of options, and if you guys want something, let me know and I'll make it, because I can.
Bingo. Oh, wait, we're going to drop.
And Brian's going to drop the link for the store.
Oh, there's bags.
Oh, yes, there's bags, there's socks, there's leggings, there's everything. I'm working on it just for you guys.
It's legit some cool stuff. Like my shirt is from there.
And it's soft.
It is.
Megan's shirt.
Not as soft as the lady's shirt.
No, but Megan's shirt with the slouchy tee. So the slouchy tee, if you guys do that, it is an off-the-shoulder shirt for the most part. There is a tank top like this. There are regular t-shirts with sleeves. There's also hoodies that are options as well. A couple of people have bought those, so woohoo!
William says we need ball caps in the store, and I've been on a...
That's something that I don't think I can make, but I will look into it for sure. Once we unlock some things in the Teespring account, perhaps I can get ball caps into the mix.
And then what's the coupon code?
Anchor! Also a reason I wore the Anchor shirt, to remind you that Anchor is the promo code.
Boom. I'm putting that in the description, in the feed.
Yes, Dave, it does. Well,
Can you repeat that? Whatever.
Dave asked, does any of the merch come in big and tall? Some of the shirts go up to 4X, so some styles have that, some do not. I am not entirely sure which ones have them, but if you look around, any of the men's shirts should either go up to 3X or 4X. I don't know if that is your size. If it's not, email us and I'll see what I can do.
I like my dance West Coast Swing shirt. It's my first West Coast Swing shirt.
Too. I thought I had mine, but I guess it's in the car.
You can keep talking.
I'm done, I think. Hi, Moose. What's up? We miss everybody. A lot. Miss Mona was playing tunes earlier. For those of you who know Miss Mona Broussard, Hall of Fame member, she was going to be our DJ for Nulu.
Those are fancy words. What does that mean? Hall of Fame member. So for those of you guys who don't know, the UCWDC, that's the United Country Western Dance Council, they have a Hall of Fame, and she was talking about Mona, who was a inductee last year. 2 years ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago into the Hall of Fame. And fun fact, I was elected to the Country Dance Hall of Fame back in 2017. So even though we run West Coast Swing Online, we're really just we're really kind of country dancers at heart. And of course, we dance a ton of West Coast Swing. So Austin asked, can we do a tutorial of some West Coast Swing lifts? And then Donna and Bob asked, can we do West Coast Swing dips?
Dips?
And then just for fun, Dave said, I'm not big, I'm tall. So
There are not very many big or tall sections.
Well, there are size charts for all of the shirts. So if none of them that we have fit or will fit, let me know and I'll see what I can do.
So to backtrack to your question, Austin, lifts, if in full disclosure, I had my first back issues in 2003. So despite the fact that I was 28 and really strong, ever since then, my back has precluded me from doing lifts. So my area of expertise of lifts is pretty weak. There's a couple that I feel pretty comfortable teaching that I've used that are pretty basic and safe that I've used with quite a few students over the years, so it's possible we could do some of those. Now, dips is a little bit better of a thing because we teach a lot of dips to like wedding couples, right? And so when you're teaching to wedding couples, you're dealing with people who don't practice or dance nearly as, like you and I will dance more in a good week than these wedding dance couples might dance ever. And they want to have a dip or something fun that looks cool. So we have some dips in our arsenal. Actually, we just shot some for West Coast Swing, for East
Coast Swing.
Yeah, for East Coast Swing. So on our website, you can.
Some means one.
Yeah. We're one for East Coast Swing. So, but yeah, dips for sure. There's
Perhaps
a bunch
that
of
can be a dips and tricks class.
dips and tricks class. Type that down. Write that
did.
down. Boom, it's already down.
Write that down.
Yeah, but yeah, Austin, for lifts, not my area of specialty. I don't think really any of us have a big area of specialty.
We could probably
We
come up
actually
with
had
some.
a lifts workshop that is somewhere videoed that we might be able to share.
Yeah, there's actually a
I
guy
would
in
like to see
town,
that.
Dave. I can't remember Dave's last name. That
They were
was
really fun.
'Cause I wanted
yeah.
to see Ben and Aaron
a
do it.
professional dancer. He danced for a long, long time. He actually did a doctorate on lifts, and he came and did a lifts workshop here. Megan and I actually danced for a show he did once.
We did. We did not do the lifts workshop together.
No, we did not do the lifts workshop.
I did it with Nick. Oh my God, I did that with Nick.
Nick.
No.
So maybe if we stay locked down long enough, I could probably find David and bring him in here to teach his
I can
stuff.
do some of my old ballet lifts into a bluebird.
Yeah.
Well, she was a ballet.
Yeah, no,
dancer.
he's in Louisville.
Okay, so Amy will let him.
Yeah.
I know she's in Louisville. She has a bar studio.
Yeah, so our state restrictions are pretty. Someone actually asked, like, are you practicing social distancing? Like,
I mean, not with us.
and not with us, because we've been around each other every day from the
It's only
jump.
4 of us.
Yeah, so none of us go anywhere else, but this is our like little group. We really don't. I've talked.
See anybody else?
Yeah, and I've thought about this, right? Like your social impact, right? Like before all this started, I had a doomsday closet, so I really haven't had to go to the store. Like, oh, I've not hoarded this stuff. I've not been one of those goofballs going to the store buying toilet paper and all that stuff. But I
Just accidentally had some.
but I do have quite the stockpile of toilet paper, paper towels, pasta, rice, jugs of water, water filters. So over the years, every few years, I get into a goofy phase of adding to my doomsday closet. So I have a doomsday closet. That's what I call my doomsday closet. So I
Sorry,
figure
I was
my
just looking at my
social impact, I don't have to go out. I haven't had to go to the store. I don't have to get stuff. So I will eventually, but yeah, so in Kentucky, we are on pretty total lockdown. Like our governor doesn't want people leaving the state or coming into the state.
Don't be doing that.
Someone called him the Mr. Rogers. He's our Mr. Rogers.
I would love that. I love Mr. Rogers. Andy's legit.
I like him.
Yeah,
A
and
lot of people like him.
Legitimately very sad and choked up when he has to talk about all the people who died. It's really sad.
we have a good governor. So
We really do.
I grew up in Boston, in Massachusetts, and you grew up in Texas.
Even Louis likes him.
Yeah, and so I've really actually started to quite like over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I've really started to enjoy the state of Kentucky. The rest of Kentucky outside of this city is exactly like you guys think who don't live here. It is pretty redneck and backwards. But the city of Louisville is actually a hidden treasure. It's like a mini Austin, Texas.
It is. That's why the transition to here was so easy, because it was legit like the Austin that I grew up in, not like the Austin now.
Yeah, so we do not have a big infrastructure issue, so traffic is not an issue. It's for sure not an issue now.
Nope.
But they did implement, what's up, David Robinette from Louisville? They did implement you can only go in the store one person at a time. So you go from the...
We were actually one of the last few people to implement that.
Really?
Yeah.
Louisville. It's been implemented since surrounding counties for a while.
And
Interesting.
states.
Yeah, you have to line up outside the store 6 feet apart from each other, and they base it off of who exits the store. Then they'll let whoever the amount of people came out, they will let those people go in.
Yep.
Some places aren't letting you take so many children in with you at a time.
Well,
Yeah, they're letting...
I mean,
In Kentucky, Ben said there's only some places that are only letting you take so many children.
at this point,
In Kentucky, they're letting you
there is-
take kids in the store, like single moms can take their kids in the store.
Gordon, it's on my list. I just haven't made it yet. It's funny you say that.
Gordon asked if there was a shirt that said, keep calm and triple step, and it's coming, buddy.
There's one that says 1, 2, triple step, anchor step. It's close. It's not there yet. We're
Maybe
getting
there-
there.
maybe
It's on my list though. If you can see, I have a little notebook thing, and it's actually in there. I just haven't made it yet.
Steve says, same rules there. Refresh my memory, Steve. Where you guys live?
Steve's from South
Australia. Oh, same stuff there. Craziness. What's up, John Burns?
Burns. We miss you.
Feel the burns. We miss you.
Feel the burn.
We're going crazy. So how long is this going to last? How long are we going to be in lockdown? What's the deal? What do you think?
Jackets.
How long?
Too long.
Let's use this as the metric.
People in hospitals think it's gonna be till August.
How long till they say Dance Louisville, our studio can open back up? What's your guess?
August.
August? You guess August. I would have said June 1st. I'm going to guess July 1st.
Too long.
The introverts are loving it. They're like, this is great. I don't have to talk to too many people.
No. There's been a lot of memes and stuff on Facebook that say, look, when I want to do it myself, I want to be alone and all this kind of stuff. But if you're forcing me to do it, we don't like it. We don't like being told what to do.
The introverts of the world.
I do like being by myself, but we do still need people. Just not as much interaction as other people.
We've got us. The extroverts of the world are.
Terrible.
Also, the normalcy of things is thrown off, so that's what's really throwing me through the loop. I like my normal.
Well, now the normal is doing videos every night.
It is. And that's, has anyone else lost track of what day it is? So the crazy stuff for us is Em and I went on vacation. We were in Florida when kind of all this was ramping up. Florida.
Should never left.
And we left on such a high. So on vacation, you start to lose track of like what day it is. You know, every day is a Saturday. You get up, you sleep late, you enjoy yourself. And then the last 2 days, stuff started to hit the fan. And then we came home, South Australia. Steve's from South Australia. And then it started to hit the, and then boom, we're out of work. And then all of a sudden, there's not a day. So the only day I know what day it is Sundays because we don't do videos.
A day of rest, which last week wasn't rest because we still videoed.
Not last week.
Boom.
Yes, we did.
We did. We shot
last
videos for the
Sunday.
website, yeah.
No, last Sunday I had the day off. I know this
Oh,
because
yeah, I'm sorry. That
very,
was 2
very
Sundays
on it.
ago.
It was 2 Sundays ago.
Woo.
Hang on, Dave. I'm going to get to your question. Yeah, so we've been shooting, we've said this a million times, a ton of videos. So if I talked to someone today, a new member to the website, if you guys really want a ton of videos to just binge watch, like
Like Netflix.
a Netflix binge watch, we are the Netflix of social dancing. So you can go to West Coast
and chill.
West Coast
oh my
and
God,
chill.
I'm gonna make a t-shirt.
West Coast and chill. Yeah, so if you guys go over to westcoastswingonline.com, enter your email address, you will be able to sign up either for a free membership and get 30-something free videos, or you can become a monthly member of the site if you're not already. For 20 bucks a month, you get access to all of our videos. Now, people have asked, like, Emily, your face on that is hilarious.
If you don't know, I'm doing a montage of Emily's faces for everybody.
Emily's faces are amazing. So yes, as a member of the site for 20 bucks a month, you can get all of the videos. In time, we're going to try to get, Megan doesn't know this yet because she's in charge of editing videos. We're going to try to get these live feed videos and get them uploaded to the website. But basically, as a member of our site, you have access to every video we've ever done. We do not put everything out everywhere. We send some out via email. So thanks to you guys who are on our email list. And we send some out on YouTube. But all of the videos we do, all of the content we have is on westcoastswingonline.com. There's West Coast, Two-Step, Cha-Cha, Nightclub, East Coast, and
Waltz
soon to be
coming.
Waltz. Waltz is coming. And
Maybe triple two at some point.
maybe triple two. So basically any social dance, polka could even be there. So Dave jumps in and says, is it my imagination or do many of the novice/newcomer follows choose to rely on leads rather than taking responsibility for their own roles in their dance? Yes. Yes. 100% yes. And I won't throw it on them as like terrible followers. However, what happens, and this comes from my experience as both a line dancer and a solo dancer and a partner dancer and a teacher. I was losing it in the last video. These guys are losing it in this video. So what happens with followers is if I take a new student, right, and I'm a good leader, I can get a lot of mileage out of my student by teaching them some basic steps and physically leading and making up for what's going on with them, right? But as soon as that happens, it shuts the followers' brains off. I don't even know what's going on.
She's laughing at her.
They're going crazy. So we're trying to answer David's question. This is a good...
Sorry. Now it's a legitimate question.
So what happens is I think the followers' brain shuts off, and I don't mean that like in an overall way, but they become reliant upon the good leaders, right? And they're unaware of what's going on in the lead's lead that's allowing them to do what they do. And I go through this all the time with my students, right? It goes on all the time. So the funny story is Megan,
Yes,
Megan, you're
what?
Megan.
Aaron?
Aaron.
We're the same person, Megan.
Yeah. So I had a broken arm at one point from a martial arts accident, and during that time I still taught, right? And all of my we're getting
spam now.
we're into spam. So what happened was all of my we're getting watchers. That's good. So my students during that time period that my arm was broken, I couldn't lead with my left arm. It was broken. It was in a sling, right? I had an operation, all that jazz. So I taught all of my students their footwork. And this gal, Erin, started dancing with me at that time. And she danced with me as my student for like 9 years. And she was awesome. She got basically to the level of a professional dancer, but she had a day job and she just chose not to do that. So what ended up happening is throughout the 9 years I danced with Erin, because she learned her basic footwork on her own to start, she always preferred learning her own part first, and surprise, surprise, she was one of the most successful dancers that I ever taught. So I think there's something to your point, Dave, that they don't take responsibility. It's partially not their fault because when they dance with a good leader, the leader can make up for so much. And even in a partnership, the coaches always pick on us as leaders and they leave the girls alone. But that's kind of why we stress a lot of this stuff of styling and dancing by yourself, and this is a good opportunity for the followers to practice their stuff, like the earlier question.
I think one of the things too is I don't think that teachers necessarily stress enough that they need to know their footwork. If you're a pro guy and you're leading a lot, you can just kind of not manhandle, but you can get your follower through whatever pattern you want. So when they dance with you, it feels great, and when they go dance somewhere else, they might not necessarily know their footwork like they should. So I don't think it's necessarily stressed as much as it maybe should be. So followers, I would take that initiative and actually practice outside of your lessons and not rely on your partner to do your footwork.
100%. Like I kind of have a sports background, so it was once said like, would you want to have a team that had wonderful teamwork, or would you rather have a team of all-stars? And I think you'd rather have the team of all-stars, because the level of each individual being so high really ups the level of the team. So that's why at high level Jack and Jill's, you get these high level professional dancers who are really good at their craft. And it doesn't matter how you match them up, it works out great, right? And there's always other mitigating factors, but the higher you raise your own level, the better off you are. So I think it happens for the followers because they are, it's easier for a leader to lead them through stuff.
Absolutely, but if you're wanting to, like, followers, you should be able to do all of that stuff on your own. Like Brian makes his students, he leads the pattern, but he doesn't actually touch them. So Brian and Megan talked about the force last night, and so that's one of the things that he makes his students do, because then they know where their weight needs to be, they know where they're supposed to be on certain counts, and so understanding that enables you as the follower to not rely on, yes, you are following like the leader, whatever they're doing, but you can also revert back to whatever basic patterns you need to go to. And that enables you to style or try to jazz it up later on because you have an understanding of where you need to be at a specific point.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Megan says yes, for sure. Boom. Yeah, 100%. And I've always had a theory that, like, I would like to take competitive dancers who do Jack and Jill's and take a bunch of followers and teach the followers styling within their basic patterns, because that's the majority of what you're going to get led through, and to deepen their understanding by themselves. But it's tricky because even the students that I had that were pretty good level competitors in the mid-levels of Jack and Jill, there was still a struggle because when they danced with really good people, they felt like rock stars. But as they lowered the level of people they were dancing with, they felt like they weren't as good. So they tend to blame it on the leaders. And that's a difficult thing to get out of your head. So more cool questions coming in. George says, do we have any plans to expand our ebook to include two-step and the other dancers? Not immediately, George. That West Coast Swing ebook was in essence 4 years in the making. 4 years of blog posts and information that it took me 2 months, honest to God, 2 months.
So long.
Yeah, all of October and November to distill down, and into December to distill down to something that was functional as an ebook. So we are a long ways away for doing it for other dancers in the same capacity. That being said, if you're a country dance fan, countrydanceonline.com, go there. There's only 3 things you can do on the main page. One of them is go to the video page. One of them is a resources tab. So countrydanceonline.com, click the resources tab, and we're going to build out that in the core areas, like what are the beginner things that we need to know?
Spins and turns.
How do I master my spins and turns? What do I need to know to do two-steps? So we're going to build out that. We have the same thing for westcoastswingonline.com. Go to the website and click the resources tab. That's built out better because we've been at it for 4 years. But if it took us 4 years to get to that ebook for West Coast, it's going to take us another 4 to get to the same thing for two-step. But the videos are really the best resource because we can do that in 5 minutes and get across enough content that would take us a long time to get through in written format.
We don't know what that is.
Gordon says, also sweet and dramatic, Miss Megan.
She's going on about her introvert rant.
The introvert rant. Yep.
Sorry.
Someone earlier said like the introverts get to go home and the extroverts carry on the party. That's kind of the way we like
Bring
it.
it to the party. Introverts take
Yep.
them home.
Hey.
So Gordon says, I'd like to ask how I can dance with a newcomer follower and how to be on time since their connection is not good. So we did a video on 3 keys to better social dancing, and a long time ago, like 4 years ago. You don't even remember. And so one of the things was that I need to quickly assess my partner and how, from the leader's perspective, like how good their timing is, what their connection's like, and I need to be able to adjust within that. It's not an easy process. Dancing in general is not an easy process. And it sounds trite, we say it over and over and over, but knowing your basics cold. Like I know exactly where my follower needs to be on 2, 4, 6, and 8 of every pattern I lead and of every variation of every pattern I lead. So that gives me a good ability to help them get to those places, right? So number 1, I need to know it. Number 2, I need to develop the ability within my own lead to communicate that. Now, if the follower knows that cold, I get to forget about all that stuff, and I just get to do my patterns and do my own styling and do my own thing, and I have to worry less about it. But cultivating that ability. A good tip is, can you lead a follower through all the basic patterns with your left hand? Then can you lead them through all the basic patterns with your right hand, right? And that cultivates the ability of, you don't get both hands one at a time. Have we done that?
You and I have not done that, but one of the other things that I think you have more control over, Gordon, is when you have things in closed position. So you do more patterns in closed position if you don't necessarily have the connection that you are wanting.
For entertainment purposes, I was sitting in a invitational Jack and Jill once, so I don't have any Jack and Jill points. I was in an event, I got invited to dance the invitational Jack and Jill, and a high level, it's maybe one of my first ones, a high level, I will not mention the name here on camera, a high level leader drew a follower that wasn't his favorite follower, right? i.e. a lower level follower than him. And as he stood up to go get that partner, he said, I'm going to just say it. He goes, well, this bitch is going to stay in closed position the whole time.
Because you have control of everything.
Because you have control. So his point in saying that was like, I can't just do what I do because I've got this rock star. I've got someone I need to manage. So
that was not Brian B. saying that. That
yeah,
was someone else.
that was the quote. That was not me saying that. So going back to a bunch of the YouTube comments, Ben has deleted all the spam ones. William says, you know you're doing good when the idiots show up to try to give you grief. Yeah, it's entertaining. There's haters. We get a little hate.
Drinking the haterade.
1 in 500 hater emails. We get all sorts of weird, like literally 490 emails in return for like 10 goofy ones. People telling us to get a job, a real job, and some, you're trying to do this. So we get some goofy ones. But at this stage, I've learned the lesson that that's what you get when you're reaching a lot of people. So we're proud to do it. Steve says the ebook is an epic document. Thank you, Steve. We worked really stinking hard at that. It took a long time. Dave said, I love the way Jack and Jill's promote good leading and following in a way the dance routines don't. Why hasn't the format caught on in the other dancers? That's a great thing. So Jack and Jill's do promote so for those of you guys who don't know, most of you guys do, Jack and Jill's are when leaders and followers are matched up randomly. And they are given a song at random, and then they have to dance. So it's the ultimate social dance competition. So Jack and Jill's do promote the skill of social dancing, right? Pure lead and follow, no practice with your partner, no predetermined song, no predetermined patterns. So that is great at promoting that skill set. And dance routines do not promote the same skill set, although I'll add this caveat, Dave. If you look at the best Jack and Jill dancers, like really the best ones consistently, they are also your best routine dancers. Would you agree?
I hadn't thought about it, but yes. They also, if you're talking about like the high-end all-star champions invitational, they're also dancing to songs that they're very, very familiar with. So they know when the hits are. They're, with people that they're familiar with. So that's kind of a skewed thing. But when you start at the bottom, like not at the beginner level, newcomer, novice, that kind of thing, I think that is I think novice and intermediate are the biggest divisions that show whether you can actually connect or not.
Yeah, and I think, so on because we thought about that, we did a lot of West Coast Swing comps for a while. Not so many in the last years, but I had a lot of students that did lots of Jack and Jills, and we did pro-am routines, and we were heavily involved in the West Coast Swing event world. And one of the observations, and this is really at the early stages of West Coast Swing Online, we're really paying attention to this. The skills that you develop in a routine do matter, because typically routine dancers are spending a lot more time developing their skill sets. So if you take the routine out of it and you say, you know, Ben and Emily or Megan and I would have to practice, you know, 2+ hours a day times what? 3 to 7 days a week, right? So a professional dancer might be dancing upwards of 15 hours to 20 hours a week working on their skill set. And most social dancers are not dancing nearly that amount of time. You know, and in a social dance scenario, if I'm social dancing, something doesn't go well, it just doesn't go well and I move to the next person. If I'm practicing, something doesn't go well, we stop, we work on it. If we can't figure it out, we then take it to a coach. So that little glitch or problem will get worked out eventually, where it takes a much longer period of time for a social dancer. Now, the second half of the question is, why haven't Jack and Jill's caught on in other styles?
Two-step.
Like they already started.
Two-step has started.
That way.
I think it's partially because Jack and Jill's apply really well to social dances, and some of the other styles aren't social dances.
Yeah, Ben says.
Dances already started in social.
Ben says Jack and Jill's apply really well to social dances, and other dance forms aren't as social. So if we use the, we did a lot of cha-cha videos, right? And it was interesting as we're shooting the cha-cha videos, we were approaching it a little bit like West Coast swing dancers. Like, what's our basic pattern? How do we change our timing and change the styles while still preserving the basic pattern, which at its essence, your lead in following a dance like West Coast swing, there's a base understanding of the dance, and then you're learning to develop skills on top of that. So it's difficult. If you go into the ballroom world and you're dancing with, 6 main ballroom dances, waltz, foxtrot, tango, cha-cha, rumba, swing, those people are splitting their time on the dance floor across 6 dances instead of our just 1. So I don't know specifically why it's not caught on in Lindy Hop. It's for sure in Lindy Hop, that world it has.
There's also a huge world of gaining points. So there is a following of point people as well. Like there's incentive to
In West Coast swing, Jack
in
and
West
Jill's.
Coast swing, yes. There's not, I think two-step has just started to have a point system, but for those people who are goal-oriented and who don't have a partner and don't have specific things like that, I think that's another incentive for them to be involved with Jack and Jill's, because they can either see a progression, they can get feedback, they can, from specific events, have something that social dancing doesn't necessarily give them.
Very true. I would love to. One of my kind of goals is in the ballroom world, right? We all learn off of a syllabus. If you guys have ever danced in a dance studio, and a lot of you have, you'll know the words bronze, silver, gold, right? We learn our patterns, bronze patterns, silver patterns, gold patterns. And those are remnants from years and years, like decades ago, of just written down patterns. Now, the advantage to that competitively is everything's very, very, very specific, and there's not a lot of variance in the teachers. The variance is 1/8 of a turn down the floor. Well, the Italians think that this pattern moves 1/8 of a turn different than the English people, right? Whereas for us as West Coast swing dancers, you're like, well, this guy says this, and this guy says this. And
In that accent as well.
yeah, so and even the terminology isn't the same, and that's a struggle, right? But that also lets it develop a little bit differently. So there is a difference in the worlds and how we're taught, and I would love to see the ballroom world look at dances a little bit more organically, lead and follow, structure, not so much technique. It does not matter if I move my hips in cha-cha in terms of leading and following my partner.
I did a Jack and Jill that was everything.
Yeah, there was what was that?
Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Calgary.
Where we did a Jack and Jill when they just played random
It was
different
really
songs.
fun.
Yeah, Megan did well in that one because she
Because I know all the dances.
she knows all the dances. Yeah. Christy Vine, hello. How are you? How are your parents doing? Christy Vine's parents live here in Kentucky, Georgetown, I think. How are your parents doing? Sliding back over to YouTube. What comments are over on YouTube? I'm reading your question, Dave.
And Steve said thank you.
Yes,
So Dave asks, are there any dancers who are particularly rewarding to study for the older newcomer novice dancers who cannot pull off the faster, more athletic moves? Oh, so you're basically asking, like, who in the newcomer novice division would be someone to emulate as what we would call like an age group competitor, right? Because there's an argument about, in the ballroom world, there's levels for every age. So if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, you're competing against other dancers at your age level. But in Jack and Jill's for West Coast, there's largely, it's just a level. It doesn't matter how old you are. And there is a difference. We had a student who was, Crystal, who is a bad mama jama dancer in her 50s, right? Really good for her, like for her age group. She's fantastic, like super good mover, super talented, but she's not as good as she would have been if she was 27, right? So there's a level difference. If she's competing against Emily or Megan, physically speaking, you're not in your prime. I'm 44 years old. I was much better at 30. I moved better. So I don't have anyone off the top of my brain for someone to study as an older newcomer novice dancer. And I'm going to throw out a name of a dude who's around my age, who's pretty darn good, who still kicks the poop out of people younger, Robert Royston, right? So Robert Royston is a dude who yes, he was a champion back in the day. He's still a very successful competitive dancer, especially in Jack and Jill's. But he is, much like myself, not in his physical prime. But he has mastered his skill set so that musically he is fantastic. So that's a guy that I would study. And if you watch Robert Royston videos, and he could be even watching this, he might even see this. He's a dude that has danced for so long, he's mastered a lot of the stuff he does. And if you watch, and I've done this, you guys know I've done this. Like, I'll watch a particular dancer, and they're Jack and Jill's across like 3 months. So let's say summer of 2019, I'll watch all of certain dancers' videos from the summer of 2019. What you will find is the material that they're dancing during that period of time is the same, right? If you just watch one video, it looks magical and it's this really cool thing. But if you watch all of their Jack and Jill's from a 3-month period, you'll see the same stuff crop up over and over and over again. And so what it tells you is they're getting really good at whatever. It's just like all of us. We only have our own. I only remember 8 moves at a time, and I keep doing those 8 moves over and over again, and I get bored. But these people get really good at their moves, and they master them, and then they continue to churn them out. And obviously, these guys and gals are at a high level. So when we see that one Jack and Jill that floats around YouTube or Facebook, it looks amazing. But if you watched all of their dances from the previous 4 months, they would look largely the same. So there's a guy.
I feel like there are quite a few guys that you can get patterns from. Like, you don't have to be of a specific age. Like, you might not do some of their moves if they happen to be more athletic or fast. But there's tons of things that John Lindo was mentioned, Kyle Red. Benji goes a little cray-cray sometimes, but he's awesome to watch. Brian, Brian has tons of moves that anyone can do at any level. He's built it that way. And so it's not necessarily, quote unquote, for the cool kids, but for the people that want the foundation and want to know how to grow. Brian has a fantastic platform for that. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to jokingly say me, because I was doing a lesson with you guys earlier, and we're doing these spins. I was like, oh God, I used to be fast in these spins, and I feel so slow, like I'm not at my physical prime. And one of the things we try to do with West Coast Swing Online in our teaching is teach a fundamental way that would work for everybody, right? And then on top of that comes our own brilliance. Like, each one of us brings a different skill set. Ben's tall. He's got advantages that I don't have. Emily's tall and long. She has a dance background that I don't have. Megan has a different background through skating, so her spins are an advantage. So, but yeah, so the stuff that we teach should be fundamental across the board, and will be, and I think we've done a lot of homework over the years, like the stuff that we teach is really the stuff that all the best people do. It's hard to see it, but we're trying to give it in a way that's most fundamental to those of us who aren't the A-list crazy whatever style people. Roger had a good question. How soon should musicality be introduced to dancers? How soon should musicality be introduced to dancers?
I think that the basic timing should be introduced right away. So what are you looking for?
The bourbon.
So back to the topic. Squirrel. I think that musicality, not musicality, but like basic musicality should be taught in the beginning. So when I teach a beginner class, I actually do the pattern walk, walk, triple step, and then I play the music and make sure that everyone can do that first. Walk, walk, triple step, because when you're learning patterns, especially as the leader, it is so hard to try and stay on time and think about that and do your footwork for a pattern and lead your follower. So I think basic timing, just learning how to step to a beat, could be done really in the first stages and separately from learning your patterns. That's my opinion.
I like it. Do you have an opinion? When should musicality be taught to new dancers? That's a great question. That's a really good question.
Yeah. I think music is important from the beginning, like Megan said, but once you are comfortable with the patterns that you are doing, so you have to worry less about where you are and what you're doing and how you're leading and all of that stuff, that's, I think, probably the time that musicality comes more into play. So you're able to think about the timing of things. You can count it in different ways. Instead of just counting the patterns that you're doing, you can count it in the eights, which then build up to phrases. But I think you first have to have an understanding of what you are trying to accomplish footwork-wise and lead-wise before musicality itself becomes the next concept. Understanding music, or like dancing to music and musicality to me are two very different things.
Boom. So I think, if I think about my experience as a teacher, like when I would introduce them, and this is, again, colored by my own personal approach to everything, I tend to try to ask students what they want to accomplish. So in the early days, I would say I'm MapQuest. And for those of you guys who are watching this who've been around for a while, you know, MapQuest was the early Google Maps. Yeah. Ben says, he's behind the camera going, you're old, because MapQuest was, yeah, when we opened the studio, MapQuest was the thing. So if Google Maps, right? Google Maps, you go, you put in, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going. So my early conversations and my continuing conversations with the students is, where are you? Where do you want to go, right? Let's just assume, I just want to come in and have fun. Okay, well, great. To have fun, you have to be able to be a functional social dancer. Let's assume that's the thing. So I will teach the things necessary to become a functional social dancer. Thinking about things in 2-beat increments and staying on time and counting the music and all the things that are applicable. I don't introduce musicality as we would as West Coast swing dancers until people, in essence, tell me that they've got a goal that includes that. So a lot of you guys on our videos and stuff are asking, how do I incorporate this? If you are my private lesson student, if you are in my group class and you said, how do I incorporate this to the music? Great, you've told me that you want to get here, and now I have to introduce those concepts of musicality. And I'm actually gonna, there's a couple of questions we're gonna get to, but I pulled up the Ultimate Guide to Musicality because we've done this course twice now, and the second time we did it was after taking input from thousands of people. And we actually introduced, so assuming you're going to buy that course, you say, hey, I'm interested in musicality. Either you're struggling with staying on time, or you're trying to connect to the patterns, or you're really trying to deepen your understanding. And so I'm going to read you the order of videos in the course and where we decided to introduce this. Once someone has put up their hand and said, I want to be interested in musicality as it relates to dancing, we did a video called What to Expect in This Course. The first video was how to count the music, and the second video was an overview and a map and general phrasing of music. So literally the second video we did, number one was counting, right? And before we got to anything else, we went, let's talk about music and how that relates. So if someone's interested, really early we start talking about straight eights and how to think about connecting to music. But if they don't put up their hand for that, you can socially dance West Coast swing and not be connected to the subtleties and musicality of the music. So I only tackle that when people actually put up their hand or are interested. And as soon as they are, we dig right in real fast. On YouTube, is that M or?
Migsu.
MGSU. MCGSU said, what impact do you see at future dance events with this virus scare? That's something I've thought about a lot. Obviously, we run 2 events. One of them was canceled in May. I don't know. I don't know. I have to imagine that it's going to affect dancers in two different ways. Number one, I think the hardcore people are going to dance, they don't care. We run a dance cruise that theoretically is supposed to go to Alaska in mid-July, and we started with 166 cruisers, and that canceled down to 40 people, and we had 40 people out of that 166 that said, I don't care, I'll die on the boat.
Going down with the ship.
So if that's representative of the dance community, there's a percentage of people who do not care. We know here in the studio, we have people that would do lessons today if we let them, right? We can't legally, morally, I guess, all those reasons. But there are a percentage of people who don't care. But how does that affect an event? Because if it affects 20% of the attendance of an event, that might be make or break for the event.
That's huge.
Yeah, we run Derby City Swing is a really big event, 600 plus people. We could afford 20% of those people not to come and still be a viable event. Nulu Open is a much smaller event. 20% of the people makes that event not viable. It can't run, it doesn't pay its bills, the hotel contracts go up. So I unfortunately think it can't not affect events going forward. And for those of us in this industry, that's something to consider. Like, things will come back for sure, and in time they will come back in full force. But over the next months, this year, even for the next year, will it affect our industry? I absolutely think it will. Yeah, so that's a struggle for all of us. And one of the videos I wanted to do, this is just kind of me personally, was like how to run a studio in the coronavirus. We've been fortunate to have.
Get to that.
Yeah, we've been fortunate to have a pretty strong business through all of this, but one of the videos that's upcoming, I'll just run down the list of ideas that we had, was a Q&A with Robert Royston, how good dancers become great, what makes a good leader, what makes a good leader, a good follower, why is West Coast Swing so hard for those of you guys who dance other dances. We wanted to redo our practice line dance, 5 ways to practice alone. That's another video we're going to be doing, like in terms of these live.
Do it again.
Yeah, we're going to do it in a live format where you can ask questions. And then thinking about teachers and dance communities, and this was kind of Gordon's question, was like how to become a dance teacher. So for those of you guys who want to become involved in this industry, how would we go about it? And then how to grow your West Coast Swing community, quote unquote, when this thing is over. And then how to survive the coronavirus as a dance studio, and what we can do to help. So those are questions that are weighing on my mind, because this is our business. All of us in this room, it's our business. It's been my life's passion since I was 21 years old. This industry is what we do, is what I do. And so that's a question. So I think it will affect it 100%. But I definitely think that there's things that event directors, studio owners, leaders in their community can do to help, to think ahead, that could be helpful to prevent, you don't want an event to go away. If we can help it survive, like we all are, what can we do? Can we live off less money? Can we not go out? Can we not hang out with people? What can we do to get through? I think that there's things that we can do as a dance community, and more specifically as studio owners and teachers, to help bridge that gap till things get back to normal. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No.
No, I think about this stuff.
I mean, I do too, but you've kind of already covered it. I think it's either going to make people try to go to the first event possible, and that's going to be a huge event, but overall, I think it will impact it quite a bit.
William jumped in and said, and this actually does relate, William, not dance related, but I'm here because of the virus. I normally work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, so this time has given me enough time to do something new. Yay. Yeah, and I feel that way. Like, what do you think? You're working more than...
I'm working more now than before. No, no, actually, admin stuff, I'm working more now. Yeah, so I think people that usually are at work and now have some free time or a little more free time are starting something new, and maybe will continue in things. So maybe we will get an influx of some people that maybe wouldn't have done it before, that will find some time now because they do like it. But I think when everybody goes back to work, first and foremost, it's going to be... we need to make money. We need to be able to support ourselves. So I think it is going to impact the dance community quite a lot.
for you, Miss Emily? Do you have any thoughts?
No.
No, she's just sad. Yeah, like
I'm happy that William is trying something new and that it's dance, because I think dance is good for everyone, no matter what kind of dance they're doing. But it makes me sad that I'm going crazy.
yeah. And to expand on your thing, William, a couple years ago I did some videos. Every year I ask the people around me, and this is a good thing to do for all of us, like ask the people around you, what would you like to see me do more of in this upcoming year? And what would you like to see me do less of? And I asked that question a couple years ago, and one of the things that people said was to do some videos. Like I used to do these video rants on Facebook and some goofy stuff. So I did a series of probably about 3 months of videos called Start Now. And the idea of those were like, it kind of relates to what we're going through now. Like start now. Start now thinking about what will the next 3 years look like? What will your financial future look like? What will, the things that are important to you look like? Your health and the family and friends and the things that are important to you. Like start worrying about that now, right? And so that's kind of represented itself, because now even us as a business in this industry, it's like start now, thinking about what's the next step in the future. So we're already thinking about not necessarily today, but like what's this going to look like when we open up? What's the industry going to look like moving forward? What can we do to support those of you guys who are stuck at home, so that when this all comes back, we're in a better position. So that's why we're spending all this time shooting videos. It's not, the live videos are for you guys, 100% for you guys. I did not want to come back in today.
Entertainment and fun things to do.
So what we're thinking about, setting up ourselves for the future, for next year. Can we create some resources that when people are back online, in their normal lives, and they can re-enter the dance worlds, and we can have cool videos on YouTube and cool videos on our website. So we're already thinking about the future. So more questions. Oh, this is what happens. So hopefully that answers your question, William.
I don't think it was a question, it was a statement.
Statement. We just ranted on that.
Welcome to dance, William. That's all I got.
So Diane says, switching roles, I had 11 years of experience as a follower in country, western, west coast. When I was introduced to salsa, I took this opportunity to try leading. Within 2 weeks, my country, western, and west coast swing following improved immensely. Diane, there is a ton of science on that. When I became obsessed with the learning process, maybe about, it's been a while ago, 10, 12 years ago, I read a stack of books. I put them in my guest room so I look smart. It's a true story. And so one of the things that's sticking in my head was pool players, professional pool players who play right-handed, they would play left-handed, and it would increase their ability and their proprioception. Is that the right word? Proprioception. Yeah, whatever that is. Right-handed. So 100%. And there's some studies that I read about timing and changing the timings of things when you learn things. And it's interesting because I had a coach, Ray Rivers. Shout out to Ray Rivers. Ray is not a young man anymore. He was in the 1968 World Latin Finals. Awesome. He's awesome, and he's Australian. Megan's Australian. And so he taught me this drill in cha-cha that changed timing. And years later, I read in the scientific literature that the change of timing causes your brain to have to stay focused and present because it doesn't stay automatic. The timing of this drill keeps changing, and the science backed that up. So yes, those of you guys who want to take an opportunity to, if you're leaders, learn the followers' basics. It's going to feel clunky and stupid and whatever, but it's going to make you use all of your intent and your focus, and it will up your game in your original role 100%.
I would only do that after you're comfortable with your own normal role, though.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so if you are a follower and you don't know the follower's footwork, and yeah, I would start there because that already is 100% challenging.
Unless that's the role you don't want to start with.
Yeah, but as soon as you're functional in your own role, to understand the other role would be helpful. So kudos to you, Diane. That's really cool. Maybe I should learn another dance style that I don't know.
Oh my gosh, you have to be a follower in one of these classes. Yes.
We are now closed.
Cricket.
Closed for business. I kind of almost did that with your pattern tonight. I almost was like, I'll just follow. Yeah, I'll do that. We'll do a reverse roll call. Write that down. We're going to have to stay in lockdown for like 4 months to get through all these videos.
What if you want to keep doing 2 classes a night?
Steve says, Diane has a good point. We should all learn to be both leaders and followers, at least try the other's role. Yeah, no, there's truth to that. And it's
Very helpful.
It's interesting. If you watch all of our videos over the last 4 or 5 years, in the last 5 years, there's been a big change from my whole dance career. It was guys, girls. If you watch the early videos, it was guys, girls, right? Because typically guys are the leaders and girls are the followers. But there has been a big shift, a major shift to the terminology of leaders and followers. And the terminology in the West Coast swing world, they call it degendered, which means there is no guy, leader, girl, follower. There's just a role of leader and or follower. And it's interesting, in the past year, I would say, almost all of the major dance organizations have taken suit and allowed not just male leaders and female followers, but like a lot of the ballroom world and ballroom organizations, you can be a leader or you can be a follower. It does not designate what gender you have to be. The swing world has done that. I think kudos to the I don't want to say the wrong word.
Swing world.
To the degendered movement, degendered West Coast swing, for forcing that initiative, because I think it's been very helpful for all of us to just see different roles in dancing. I don't want to say it shifted my mind, but I had to shift my terminology for sure. And then the ballroom world has followed suit, and there are a couple of different events in the country world that's been a little bit slow to change.
As far as competitions.
Yeah.
But actual social dancing is seen quite a bit.
So Diane says, I can't tell you how many times that I've jumped in as a leader in a beginner's class and repeatedly been told by the followers that I'm the best leader in the room because I'm a follower, so I get it. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to speak to the leaders. Leaders, and I think I said this earlier in some other workshop at some point today. We taught so many videos earlier today, that as the leader, one of my skill sets is understanding where the follower needs to be, right? So I can jump in all the patterns I teach and do the follower's footwork. I know which foot it is. I know where the triples are. I know where the accented beats are. And so, yeah, 100% to your point.
You have to know where you want your follower to go.
Yeah, so Diane's point is when she's leading, she knows where she needs to be as a follower. So for a split second, you have to look at it from the other side of the slot. But then once you're past that, boom, you know which foot. And then someone asked the other day, like, what was the question about leaders and followers? I can't remember. It was pertinent to this.
Context to what?
In context to thinking about the leaders versus followers role. I can't remember. Yeah, no, that's a big skill set. Super duper helpful. So kudos to you, Diane. Another comment said, as a male, I had a women instructor teach me following, which allowed me to understand what not to do as a lead or what a lead should feel like. Yes. Yeah, there's a deepened skill set. And I would say this, you guys as teachers, right, you've had to learn. So as a dancer, you came in to dance as a professional dancer, but then as a teacher, you had to learn the leader's role. Mm-hmm. And so what was that experience like?
It was difficult, but it's kind of like in ballet, you have to do both sides. You can't just do one side because you're better at it than the other. So there's always going to be two sides to things. Followers, obviously, actually leading was easier to learn for whatever reason. And following to me was the most difficult to remember. But, yeah.
What was it like for you? Because you danced as the follower for a long, long time before you had to be a teacher, in which case you had to then teach the leaders.
I'm pretty intuitive as far as like following. I really, really tune in to my leaders. So really, other than learning footwork, which wasn't super hard for me, but the leading aspect, I kind of just already knew where I wanted the follower to go because I knew where I needed to go. So it wasn't really that hard.
Boom. Yeah, so if you become an expert in one role, it's relatively easy to switch to the other side. You're not going to be as confident, obviously, But there is a great, great, great benefit. Even the science backs that up.
Now, remembering patterns, that's a whole nother story.
Whole other story. Yeah, and Diane says she's not just talking about West Coast swing, but pretty much all social dances. 100%, 100%. And in my experience, the only challenges that I've had are challenges that I assume that other people have when they do switch roles, or as they're, students that come in and they're learning different dance styles at the same time. Things do get confusing, and there's always an argument. This is kind of a base argument. Should a student learn one dance form and kind of become proficient at it, or should they learn multiple dance forms at the same time? And I don't even have a good answer to that. But I think you kind of covered it. Like Emily said earlier, if you're the follower, understand the basic follower's role. Understand all your basic patterns and your basic timing and become proficient at that. But once that part is done, you can gain a lot of value on what you know already by switching roles. And there is no group class very few group classes that wouldn't allow you to come in and flip around the role. We had someone came in, did a lesson with me. It was from maybe up in Indiana. And really good girl, really good follower. And she did the group class and then led in the group class. And she was a really strong dancer in her own right. And so, surprise, surprise, her leading ability was also really good. So Roger says, which cross-training could benefit West Coast swing dancers?
Well, I think we already answered this.
Yeah, I had a thought. I had a coach in college. I was a college runner, and that's when in the early to mid 90s, there was a lot of cross-training coming out, right? Cross-training for runners, different things we could do as runners. And this guy literally wrote the book on the Boston Marathon, and he said, Brian, the best thing you could do to be a runner is to run. So generally speaking, if you have 10 hours a week to dedicate to dancing, 10 hours a week dedicated to dancing is the best thing you can do. Now, as a professional, when you're maxing out the time on the floor, well, at that point, you can start to worry about, okay, can I lose 5 pounds? Can I go running to increase my stamina? Can I improve my diet? Can I stretch? Can I do Pilates? But I sometimes think that dancers will use some of those, and I have too, use the cross-training as a crutch to not spend as much time on the dance floor as you could.
Terrible.
Like, if you've got 10 hours a week to dedicate towards being a good West Coast swing dancer, you should spend 10 hours a week dancing West Coast swing. If you have 10 hours a week dedicated towards being a competitive dancer and working on your routine, you should work on your routine with your partner. That's the first thing. Now, if your partner can only give 10 hours a week and you can practice with someone else, that could be a benefit. If you only have 10 hours a week of dancing available to you, and then outside of that, you can work out and increase your stamina and flexibility and coordination and do another dance style, that can be a benefit. But I would focus on your main thing first. Argentine tango is traditionally man leads.
Leaders have to start by learning the follower role.
Oh, Argentine tango traditionally starts with the man leaders having to start by learning the follower's role before they're allowed to lead. That's interesting. I need to ask some questions to my Argentine.
There's a lot of needing to know where the follower is supposed to do things.
Like
100%.
Argentine tango is so ambiguous with so many different.
Like West Coast swing?
No.
Yes and no. Yes, West Coast swing is open-ended, but Argentine tango, the slightest and the most subtle movement from something can make a reaction in a different part of the body. Like, it's just, you both have to understand. Yeah, I don't know. West Coast swing is difficult. I hated West Coast swing when I first learned it.
That's fascinating, though. I need to. I've got a good friend that has a studio just down the road here from us, and like studios tend to seem to have their their specialty. Like, they're a ballroom studio, they're a standard studio. Like, we tend to be, although it says ballroom dancing on the front door, we tend to dance an awful lot of West Coast swing and country. Although ballroom is really what people kind of come in for.
Well, a lot of country dances are ballroom dances
100%. But my friends down the street are super focused into Argentine tango. They run an Argentine tango festival here in town. They go to Argentina, as you probably do, all that crazy, cool stuff. So I need to actually
look into that.
I learned this, taxi dancer. Has anyone ever heard the term taxi dancer? I learned this when I was the Argentine Tango Festival. It's here in town. I'm on their board to kind of help them with their marketing. And so we were talking about their event and positioning, and we were talking about dance hosts. In the ballroom world, there's a dance host, right? So maybe if there's a lot more followers, if it's a dance cruise, they might hire male leaders as hosts, and it's their goal to dance the room and dance all the extra followers. And so I learned that there was something called a taxi dancer, where you could actually hire a male dancer at the event to be, in essence, your partner. Taxi dancer.
Rent a pro.
Rent a pro, rent a
a
partner.
partner.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a real thing. I learned it once. Gidget said the ACDA, that's the American Country Dance Association. That's one of the country dance associations here in America. They have degendered pro-am, so you can dance either role.
That is true.
Kudos to them. I like that. Martin says, have you guys ever got caught practicing dance moves at school, work, or elsewhere and got laughed at? Grocery store for me.
Not laughed at. Grocery store. Like, you use the cart.
Weird looks, but not laughed, because my lock steps were that good.
Yep. I've got a cha-cha drill that I do in the checkout line all the time. I have for like over a decade. So Taxi Dancer was an old traditional Argentine tango a long time ago in Argentina.
That or
Yeah, I
what
think
she
she's
said?
talking about.
Oh.
What she said.
Okay, cool. So Gordon says, how do you plan a routine to perform in West Coast Swing as you progress along your dancing? Good question. I'm a big fan, and it's been our experience in the studio here that the students that I have that come in and choose a partner and choose to work on a routine, the level of dedication and seriousness really rises. So if you can get a partner that will work on a routine to a specific song, almost unequivocally, that will up your game, clearly, because especially if you have a goal to perform at a certain time, there's a deadline that you have to make. The fear of going out there messing up that routine is real. I won't speak for you guys. Probably not you. You're pretty chill. But like, it freaks me out. Maybe not exactly to this day, but there's always that anxiousness of not messing up your routine, and that drives you to practice and show up. So Gordon, if you could find someone to do any level of routine with you in any sort of performance or competitive aspect, that is a big driver and will be extremely helpful. That will really broaden your skill set, not only with the moves you're doing, but the choreography you have to learn and remembering it and the techniques and the musicality.
And how do you do that?
How do you do that? How do you
plan? That's the question.
How do you plan the routine?
You do your straight eights of the music, you map your music out.
Yeah, so if you were doing it by yourself, you would...
Or even with a pro or another partner.
Yeah, even with a pro. If in a perfect world, I would find myself a coach that I respected. They do not have to be the world's best dancer, best coach, but a coach that you think that you get along with, that does a good job, and I would listen to them and let me guide you. That is easily the best way to go. If you don't, what's that? If you,
He's asking a pro.
He's asking you.
Yeah.
yeah. So how would I do it?
So you map out.
I would pick a song that I really liked, right? I would find the accents in the song, the general gist of the song. I would edit that song down to 2.5 minutes, right? Something that inspired me first and foremost. Then I would basically, if it was you, Gordon, I would start to take moves that I like. This is what we all do, right? We take moves that we like, that we know how to do, and we start to create them using some of the skills we teach of accenting music. It can be very easy to begin with, and you start to organize that. And there's two different theories, and one of them was by Jordan and Tatiana, the most successful West Coast Swing couple. They would actually just work on a section of their routine until they liked the moves for that section of music, and once they had it, they'd move on to the next section. So instead of planning out this entire 2-minute routine, and Megan and I have done this too, we just dance stuff until we like it, and we go, what about this? What can we do this to get to this accent? The music sounds like this here. What if we added some turns? And you keep playing with that until you go, okay, that's 16 beats. I like it. And then you move on to the next 16 beats. So thank you to the ladies for helping answer your question.
Hope that helped, Gordon.
Lydia says, tourists who go to Argentina, hire their teachers to dance with them at the milongas, the social dances, because the locals there will not ask you to dance. Yeah, that's
They're
always
clicky. They're super clicky.
where it's clicky. It seems clicky everywhere. So yes, that's
Country is not clicky.
country is not clicky. I will say that the country. If you guys come to a country event, they are super duper friendly,
Very
and that's
welcoming. That's one of the reasons that we take our students there.
yeah. And I've been to all the dance events. I compete as a professional in ballroom and amateur ballroom and West Coast swing events and country dance events, and I've danced in 22 countries. And I will say that the country events, pretty much all of them, are super duper socially friendly, easily.
Brian, that's awesome.
Brian says, used to practice prom routines in my work boots while running a print and die cutting press. Got bugged by everyone, but didn't care. Yes,
Stand
kudos
your ground.
to you. It's like, what was the Richard Gere and
Pretty Woman?
Lopez movie?
J-Lo.
Shall We Dance? Is that the movie?
Shall We Dance?
Shall We Dance? Thank you, Miss Megan. Shall We Dance? When, yeah, like people didn't know their secret lives. That's true. We all kind of have a secret life. Well, we don't have a secret life. It's all on YouTube now.
Secret Lives. The original Shall We Dance?
Yeah, that's funny.
That's really funny.
Have you ever watched the original Shall We Dance, the Japanese film? Great viewpoint from a guy perspective. Yes, and there's a rumor that Ray Rivers previously, and I've not seen the Japanese version, previously mentioned in this video, was one of the characters in that movie.
Strictly Dancing.
Strictly
I thought it was
Dancing? Strictly Come Dancing? Okay.
That's not that one.
Strictly Come Dancing.
It's the Boz Luhrmann.
Yeah. Anyways,
Strictly Ballroom. Strictly Ballroom.
Strictly Ballroom.
Strictly Come Dancing is another thing. I think it was about the ballroom dancing in the schools, something like that.
No, that's another movie, but I don't remember what it's called.
Red Hot Ballroom? Mad Hot Ballroom. Mad Hot Ballroom. That was Pierre Allaire? Pierre Delaine? Pierre
But
something
then
or other?
also, Shall We Dance is in The King and I. That was the first Shall We Dance.
Boom. I like the dance history stuff. That's fascinating.
It's a polka.
Ray Rivers is an interesting guy. If you can Google Ray Rivers, there's not too much on him. But I actually first started taking lessons with one of Ray's children. All of his kids are high-level professional dancers, and so I got a chance to work. You got a chance to work with Ray.
Yeah, I like Ray.
And he's like a real-life Sean Connery. Yeah. So if you go on a YouTube and like put in Ray Rivers or Ray and Matt Rivers, there's a couple of dance shows where he's dancing with his kids. It's super cool.
Antonio Banderas was Take the Lead.
Yes.
Take the lead. There you go.
Had a very intense tango scene.
It was awesome.
Bingo. Any other questions, kids, before we jump out? What's up, JC Bryant?
Of a woman.
Any other
Do a
questions
tango class.
before we head out? So we should have our live class schedule hopefully out for the next several weeks at least. Hopefully that'll be out tomorrow. So West Coast Swing Online /live. And share that link with your friends because we're trying to mix in some content for new dancers. One of the videos, we didn't cut the entire list of videos, but one of the videos we want to do by request was like, what are some things that new dancers can do? Like we tend to put out this crazy 32-beat thing we did today that covers everything we did over the week, but if you're a new West Coast swing dancer, what are the types of techniques that you can cover?
Beginner one.
Beginner one too.
Yeah, we've done some beginner stuff, but like for the people who are, let's say the Corona lockdown started as someone had been to beginner class for like 6 or 8 weeks, right? And they've heard about styling, they've heard about musicality, but shit, they've only been through 6 or 8 weeks of beginner class. I said a bad word. Hint, hint. I say bad words in my real life, and I don't really say them on video.
Boston, it just
From
comes out.
Boston, we know a lot of bad words.
Spews.
We did when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year, not this past February, but the year before, and then I put out my Kilimanjaro video. We put this like 30-minute awesome video, and I put it out to all of our West Coast Swing Online subscribers. And someone wrote in that, boy, I always thought you were squeaky clean, Brian B, because it was just me on a mountain like 9 days in the middle of nowhere, and so there was a lot of F words that just flew off my tongue. And he was like, you know, everyone thinks you're squeaky clean, but just claim it was oxygen deprivation. So
That is true. Salsa and bachata people will dance with pretty much anyone.
Yes, they do. I was gonna say that.
Salsa and bachata dancers are generally very friendly and will dance if you ask. That's good.
Truth.
Even if you're the age of their grandmother. That's what I like about dancing. It's one of the rare activities that you can have, like grandparents dancing with kids, like
And you
grandkids.
don't even have to know the same language. It is a universal language.
It is.
That's why I love it.
Linda says, even on dance cruises, there are people that hire a dance partner to dance with them when there's music and dancing. Yes. We try to solve that problem on our dance cruises by trying to limit the leaders and followers and try to hire male staff members as dance hosts. So Benjamin was one of those people. Sandra says, thanks so much. Something to look forward to each day. I'm learning so much. That makes our day, Sandra, because that's what we're here for, and that's kind of our goal for the next several weeks. We're going to try to expand our content to be, we know that everyone can't stand up and dance in their living room, so we're going to try to add some lecture-style stuff that's consumable just by sitting on your phone in your bed, and you don't have to actually get up and dance a pattern. So we're going to try to mix some of that stuff in.
Whatever you want, boss.
There you go. I'm the boss. Who knew? Strictly Come Dancing is the Dancing with the Stars show in the UK. That's right. There you go. That's what I thought.
Is it?
Yeah, Strictly Come Dancing was
Why
in
didn't
England.
you say that?
Because the bourbon's going to my head. Raul says, thanks for your efforts for the dance community. You are very welcome. We are excited. And I task you guys, because I know some of you guys are here all the time, to share this with your friends. Typically, we all know, like, our people who don't dance, they're not so convinced quite yet. But those who have been recently introduced to dancing, share our stuff with them, because that's really our passion. And what we do is to, I always think of this as a funnel, and everyone passes through the beginner phase, and then we shake down to the people who are willing to watch all of our videos. So anyone who's in that early phase and kind of got shut off by this coronavirus, that is our goal. Yeah, so whatever we can do to help, send us a comment, send us an email, brian@westcoastswingonline.com, and we will hook people up however we can. We have tons of resources, tons and tons of resources, and shoot us an email or a comment, and we will get the resources to the people that need them. So, thanks, gang. We're going to sign off because, well, I'd say Ben has to...
Megan, that's a good face.
I'd say Ben has to get to work tomorrow, but it's Sunday. Ben's falling asleep. So we're going to go because Ben keeps
Megan
us
has to go eat and then
here.
go to bed, so.
Love you guys. We'll see you not tomorrow, but we'll see you on Monday. West Coast Swing Online /live. Variations of the Sugar Tuck. Put it on the list.
We did that on our the intermediate West Coast class that Megan and I did. We did variations of the Sugar Tuck.
This past week. So
It
you can
also
go,
included the tuck whip that you saw tonight.
which is really...
A tuck whip.
Bye, guys.